In this episode, our guest Dr. BCAK Nayar and host Lakshmi Prasad will be discussing about the secularization of Archakatvam in the state of Tamil Nadu. Dr. BCAK Nayar holds many postgraduate degrees in English literature, philosophy, psychology, and linguistics. He is currently working in higher education sector. Our host Lakshmi Prasad is a chartered accountant and an investment banker. He takes interest in history, literature, and the study of cultural and religious aspects.
First of all, welcome to the podcast. And for lay persons, for lay Hindus like me who are lay temple goers, we don't really know what happens on the management side of the temple and how these temples are under the control of government, which bodies of the government actually have a say in this, and to what extent they can interfere in the ritual practices and all that. So maybe if you can give us some background as to how it stands and where it stands right now, starting with Tamil Nadu and the problems that Archakas and other practitioners are facing, that will be really helpful.
Sure, sir. I'll give you sort of a survey. So, what is the past and what is happening now, sir? So, basically, temple worship is a very integral part of all the sampradayas of Hinduism. May it be, what to say, Vishishtadvaita, or may it be Dvaita, or may it be for any lay Hindu, temple is the center of the spiritual activity. And temples are governed by Agama. Throughout India, throughout the Bharata Desha, it was the thing, right from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. But the problem was that due to very frequent alien aggressions and such thing, Ahamic traditions were lost in many parts of India. But to a certain extent, we were able to preserve the Ahamic practices and Ahamic lineages in southern part of India, especially in Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, we have the temples can be very broadly classified into Saivite temples and Vaishnava temples. There are a few Shakta temples and other things, Kaumara temples. The numbers are very few. But the major classification is Saivite temples and Vaishnava temples. And in Saiva temple, they follow Saiva Ahama. And in the case of Vaishnava temples, they follow Vaikanasa and Pancharatma system, either Vaikanasa system or Pancharatma system. So all these things are not just ritual practices, but these practices have very strong footing in the theology and philosophy of Saivite or Vaishnavite religions itself. And talking about Saiva Agamas, there are a number of Saiva Agamas, and the Saiva Agamas say that the worship of any person can be divided into two types, Parartha Puja and Atmartha Puja. And Parartha Puja is the puja or the worship that is done for the public. Atmartha Puja is the worship that is done to enhance one's own spirituality or gold, to ensure that one reaches moksha. And the Saiva Ahama texts very categorically state that the Parartha Puja, that means the puja in the temples as such, can be done only by a separate class of people known as Adi Saivas. And we should understand that even though Adi Saivas are Brahmanas, according to the ancient Varna system, they are different from other Brahmanas. Not all Brahmins who wear sacred ash are Adi Saivas. These Adi Saivas are a separate ethnic group. And their Adi Saiva status, they get it not through Diksha or any other thing, but rather through birth. By birth, this is a congenital, status there, or sort of thing they get it. So Adi Saivas, they follow the Saiva Ahama, and even in Tamil Nadu, only Adi Saivas can get inside or touch the deity within the sanctum sanctorium. Not even Shankaracharyas or anyone they cannot do it. No Brahmin, even is a Vedic Pandit, he is not allowed to do that. So that specific thing is there. And Adi Shaivas are supposed to be the custodians of the Ahamas, and they practice Ahamas in Pratishtha, Nitya Puja, and Utsava, and all those things. Coming to the Vaishnava school, we have Pancharatra and Vaikanasa. Once again, Pancharatra, it is almost similar to Saiva Ahama, except in the case of theology. And in Pancharatra too, we have Pancharatra Brahmins, whom we call as Adi Pancharatras, to differentiate from others. These people, they get the special privileges of being Archakas in Pancharatra temple, which is through their birth, not through anything else, not through learning of text and all those things. Those things are secondary. The primary thing is that it should be in the bloodline, and they belong to 5 Kotras. The Adi Shaivas, they belong to certain 5 Kotras. So is the case with Pancharatras, they belong to 5 Kotras. Both these people are endogamous group. They do not marry outside their community. And there are Panjaratra Ahamas. Sri Lankam has Parameshwar Samhita. Some other temples have Kaushikara, some have Ishwar Samhita, some have Saptada Samhita, and something like that. Vaikanasas are yet another set of Brahmins. In the case of Vaikanasas, their uh, terminology and their right is exclusively restricted to them. So they belong to Yajurveda and Vaikanasa Shutra. And once again, the Vaikanasa status, they get it only through their birth. So this is how the Ahamic systems, predominant Ahamic systems in Tamil Nadu is. And earlier, temples used to have two set of managements. Everything related to the rituals and everything related to the pujas, they were managed by the Archaka community, Adisayavas or Pancharatras or Vijnanasas. And they took the ultimate decision in anything related to the theological system. And secondarily, we had other community people, Brahmins and non-Brahmins, who were taking care of the finance of the temple and such stuff. And we have to keep something in our minds, sir. Even so-called Sampradaya Pravartakas did not interfere in this system. For example, we have Ramanuja, who established the Vishishtadvaita Vedanta, and Sri Lankam is the headquarters of Ramanuja Vaishnavism. But Ramanuja never interfered with the Pancharatra practice. In other words, Ramanuja never tried to enter the sanctum sanctorium of Sri Lanka temple. So whatever is Sampradaya or whatever is Vedantic view was, that was what to say, that was outside the temple rituals and all those things. He did not try to interfere in the practices. He did not try to influence the practices. Instead, what he did was he was inclusive. He included this Pancaratra worship as a pramana in his own system. So this is the general model, and this was how the system was going on. On one side, we have the Archakas who take the ultimate decision in anything and everything related to the rituals and what to say, puja systems and everything connected to the temple. On the other side, we had a set of Astikas, believers of various philosophical systems, Vishishtadvaita or Dvaita or Saiva Siddhanta, who are taking care of the temple properties and are doing all the para ritual works. So this system was very strong, and it was there from the right of times of Chera Chora Pandyas. It was no interferences were made in the Nayaka rule, and the problem came first when East India Company entered southern part, especially this Tamil Nadu. And when East India Company began to get hold of territories, they found that thousands of acres of lands are under the control of these temples. And as a result of that, they began to interfere in the temple administration, and not in the ritual part, but rather in the accounting and in what to say, getting taxes from the temple property and such things. So this issue or this practice was going from for some 100 years at least until 1857. After the Indian Mutiny of 1857 or the First War of Independence, the British Crown decided not to interfere with the religious practices. They had their bitter lesson. So in 1858, by the Royal Proclamation, it was the religious freedom was guaranteed, and that meant that the East India Company was done away with. The India was brought right slightly under the crown of Queen Victoria. And what happened was that, according to the Royal Proclamation, they decided to come away or come far from the temples. The English management refused, or they rather, what to say, they handed over temple back to some Astigas. That is the system. And this was the first time when some sort of external control or some sort of a control by people who are non-believers or political angle was there on temple. So the English people, after the company days, 1857, the English crowd, they found local trustees who were influential people or who were very close to the English government, and they handed over the temple management to those people. The English courts, they continued to arbitrate cases related to temples based on the Hindu texts, the Ahamic texts. Even though they were the arbitrators or even though they pronounced judgments, the logic was derived from the text. So this was the system. What happened was that later, with the rise of this linguistic chauvinism and what to say, racial chauvinism and all those things, in Tamil Nadu, there was a very strong anti-Brahmin movement. So Justice Party and Dravida Kalaham and many such organizations were rooted on this anti-Brahmin movement. And this anti-Brahmin movement had its seeds in a very basic thing. Actually, during those days, government jobs were very lucrative. And the Brahmin community in Tamil Nadu, they were the first community to start to, very fruitfully utilize the English education system. As a result of that, the proportion of Brahmins in government jobs was higher than the population. At least that's what they claim. So the other people from other community, especially from other non-Brahmin forward community, who wanted to get a government job, consider they found it very difficult to compete with Brahmins, and they considered that some sort of Brahmins are some sort of threat or something like that. And this resulted in a very strong anti-Brahmin movement, and it was Dravidian in nature. It was not limited to Tamil Nadu. There were a very good number of Telugu-speaking people, at least one or two Malayalis, and maybe possibly E.V. Ramasamy himself is considered to be a Kannadiga. His mother tongue is Kannada. So this anti-Brahmin, what started as a social movement soon became a political as well as a religious movement. And during these years, these leaders of this Dravidian movement and Justice Party and all those things, they couldn't differentiate between the Brahmins who held secular jobs and the Archaka Brahmins. For them, everyone was a Brahmin. In post-colonial theory, we talk about a concept of othering. For us, the other is other. We don't give or we don't, take pains to differentiate between it. You'd have seen it. Racial profiling will be very common. We'd identify someone as an African American or an, Chinese person, instead of identifying the special feature or instead of identifying the special place from there. So similar was the case with the Brahmins. These people, they are troubled, they are weak. Everything was with the Brahmins, mostly Ayers and Iyengars, who, and of course, Raus who took government jobs. But unfortunately, they classified this temple Archakas also under this thing. And temple Archaka community, they are very micro minority. We would have at least, even now, I think we will have some 10 or 15,000 Adi Saivas, some 10,000 Pancharatras and 10,000 Vaikanasas. This is their strength, nothing more than that. But they were also branded as Brahmins, and they were also, victimized when the anti-Brahmin movement came into force. As a result of that, in order to control the power of Brahminism, that's what they say, temples were brought under the control of government. And that started all these actions, all these movements took place even before independence. And not just this Dravidian parties or Justice Party, even Congress played a very important role in bringing temples under government control. Because in the pre-independence days, our people, we were, the Congress leaders or all the Indian leaders, they were very much colonized and they were paying for these reforms. They found that, the Indian system, the Ahamic system, everything was very, orthodox, and they wanted their agenda, political agenda of reform to be brought in. So temple entry movement and everything, temple entry, access to temple was there for everyone in Tamil Nadu, provided they took a Diksha. But later this Diksha system, everything went away, and political correctness took center stage. And even Congress people, they played a very active role in bringing the temples under government control. So this is how it started. In Tamil Nadu, we have Hindu Religious and Charitable Endowment Organization, which is a very colonial, even pre-independent setup. After independence, the same thing continued, and government began to influence or interfere more and more things in everything, each and everything connected to Hindu temples. So when the Dravidian parties came into power, they took a next step. They wanted to abolish the hereditary Archaka system. That was their first step. And what they did was that there is a very famous case known as Sheshamal case. In the Sheshamal case, the case is about the right for the trustees to appoint Archakas instead of succession of office. So that was the first step. And in the second step, they wanted to bring in Archakas from all community. They wanted to make this Archakaship, priesthood, as a secular profession. So with the reservation, with the interviews, with government training colleges and everything, they wanted to bring in. This was the second step. And this step, these actions, or the stage was set for this action way back in, 2006 to 11. That period, that thing has come to pace. So now they have very successfully implemented that law. So Archaka caste, without caste, casteless Archaka system, that's what the government calls it. I prefer to call a Archaka system which is made into a secular job. And now we are in the third phase. Currently, due to linguistic chauvinism and all those things, They want to, a lot of political activists in Tamil Nadu, they want to replace Sanskrit in rituals with Tamil. And the ruling party, which has sympathized with the Tamil movement, they are very actively supporting this doing Kupabhishekas and rituals in Tamil and all those things. This is they are in the third phase. So what is lost to a common Hindu is that even though we have secured our Ahamic traditions from foreign invasions and troubled times and everything, in the independent India, we are now finding it very difficult to save our own Ahamic temples. So Ahama is done away with. So anyone who completes a 2 year course run by the government can become an Archaka according to the new law. The interview system is there. So according to the system, the government trains the Archaka. The government ensures that the Archaka gets the Diksha. And there are many troubles. For example, in a traditional Archaka system, not only the Archaka, but the entire family of the Archaka should be a believer in the Ahama. Only then it goes on. But when it is a government job, even if X, who is an Archaka, appointed by the government, trained by the government, and made Archaka by the government, the X is supposed to be a Hindu according to the law. But there is no law prohibiting X's wife or son or daughter or father or mother being practicing some other religion. So all these issues and the crisis and everything is coming in, and the government is trying to dictate the terms of religious freedom, which is very much against the constitution and which is very much against the natural justice. I hope that even though I took a bit time, I gave you some idea about what is happening here.
No, absolutely, sir. I mean, this is a fantastic background here. You raised two pertinent points. You identified the root of this anti-Brahmin Dravidian movement and you linked it with economic causes like higher representation of Brahmins in government jobs. So there is a huge element of economic aspect to it. So when the current Dravidian parties and political parties, including Congress, are trying to secularize the priestly profession, are they linking it to any economic benefit for the person being trained and placed as the priest? Do they see? I mean, is it a lucrative thing like it was like the government jobs were earlier? Because what I see is the priests are paid a very low amount of remuneration. So if that is the case, then what is actually pushing them to secularize the priestly profession and invite people from other communities to be part
Exactly,
of it?
sir. Exactly, sir. Maybe in the entire Tamil Nadu, there will be some 100 temples where the priest will enjoy a very good salary. In all other temples, in 95% of the temples, what the priest gets is a pittance. He survives through some sort of donations from kanikas or donations from the bhaktas on one side, and the priests, they stick on to the job. Actually, they think that it is the Kuladharma. As I told you earlier, even today, Adi Saivas, Adi Pancharathas, and Vaikanasas, many of them have not turned into secular profession because they believe that it is their Guladharma to take care of the temple. This is how the thing is. Then why is this rush to appoint people from all other places as priests? The question is all there. And let me make one more point. Not just Dravidian parties in Congress, even Hindutva organizations are very keen in turning this priesthood into a secular job. They too want non-traditional person to come into the priesthood. The reason is very simple, sir, very simple and very symbolic. Each and every person, they have one aspect, some aspect or some motive in it. For Dravidian parties, it is the pinnacle of anti-Brahmin movement. Driving away a Brahmin from the temple is considered to be the pinnacle, or that is considered to be the last movement in their great long war against Brahmins. What they fail to recognize is that these Archakas, they belong to a subsect of Brahmins, and these Archakas, they themselves were, were victimized by other Brahmin communities. For example, right from the days of Adi Shankara, Pancharatras were considered to be a heterodox set, and no Iyer or Iyengar would try to enter into a marital relationship with the Pancharatra or Adi Shaiva or a Vaikanasa. Even among Brahmins, they were considered to be second citizens due to very many reasons, the prohibitions, this and that, and they were isolated by Brahmins during one side because of a connection with other varnas and everything. And later, when these parties came into power, what happened was that these people were identified with Brahmins, and these people had to bear the brunt because these people were in temple jobs and everything. It is as if like they are being punished for following the Kuladharma. So this is the Dravidian party angle. When we come to, because Congress has no big role to play in current Tamil Nadu politics, when we come to the Hindutva organization, it is from the other side, because Hindutva organizations very often face a question from many people from other religions. They ask whether in our religion, people from every caste and creed and gender can become a priest. Is that so in Hinduism? They ask this question, and when our people are Hindutva people are unable to answer this, they immediately brand Hinduism as a very, unfit or very regressive religion. So these people are repeatedly bombarded by this question, and they have decided to do away with this weakness. I put the word weakness within quotation of Hinduism. So they are also very actively supporting, and they are also training people from many walks of life to become, even women and everyone from every gender to become priests, which is in complete opposition of Agama. So this is it. So basic thing is that Hinduism believes in rebirth, and rebirth means that birth of a person is conditioned by his actions in the previous janma, and if we don't accept this, the entire idea of Hinduism will be lost. So now what the Dravidian parties do, and what the Hindutva organizations include BJP too, that has no economic connections. That is more or less a symbolic gesture to to communicate to the masses that they have fulfilled their political or social, not commitment, but goal.
Right. As you said, I think even I'm seeing in the news that the government has announced that the priesthood in the newly being built Ayodhya Ram Mandir will be given to Dalit priests. So there is this aspect of training someone to become a priest. I mean, there is obviously the hereditary aspect where certain families have been preserving certain agamas, agama and ritual practices in their families. But how do you see the whole training part? I mean, let's say if government doesn't do it, and one of the Hindu mathas or Hindu samsthas do the same thing by inducting people from all communities into the fold and train them in the agamas properly. Do you think will that be a reasonable middle ground between the atrocities that the government and the secular organizations are doing and what the current state is?
Sir,
Just thinking aloud.
okay, sir. Okay, sir. You raised a very significant question. Many people who are with us in questioning the interference of government in temporary matters, even those people feel that things would be fine if some mutt or some pro-Hindu organization does the training and induction and onboarding of priests. Sir, I differ with them. I do not agree with this. The question is not who is doing it. The question is whether it is prohibited or accepted. And Ahamas are very particular in certain things. They are very particular in suggesting and stating that only people belonging to such and such a lineage are supposed to be priests. So it is a sort of a blessing, or it is a sort of a vara, a boon given to them. Speaking in terms of rebirth, maybe for their past actions or something like that. And that has been the Ahamic injunction. And it doesn't matter whether the government does it or whether some Hindu mutt does it. Number one, sir. Number two, let us speak even in secular terms. See, sir, almost all the temples in India all the temples, they have been subjected to some attack at some period. There is no temple which is immune to attacks either by foreign forces or someone else. And in all these attacks, it was the temple priests who were first line of defense. So temple regularly, whenever a Hindu temple is attacked by someone from some other aggressive, philosophy or something like that, the first thing that they would do is they will catch hold of the temple priest, and they will torture the temple priest to get information about the gold and idols of the temple. And most of the temple priests have faced a very untimely and gory death during all these aggressions. So the people we see are the descendants of such people, such priests who sacrifice their life to safeguard the murtis and temples and everything. You'd have heard about how the Dikshitas of Chidambaram took care of Nataraja for 65 years. They went away with Nataraja, and only because of that, the Nataraja idol is now there. And similarly in Sri Lanka also, the Sampradaya Pravartakas and the temple priests, they ran away with the the Ussava idol of Rangaraja, and for some 75 or 80 years away from Srirangam, when there was an aggression from rulers of some other religion. So this is how each and every time the temple priests have safeguarded the temple. Over generations, it was like that. And they have faced very troublesome times. They have faced famines. They have faced periods where none came to the temple. In spite of all these things, they had held to that. You just consider the temple priesthood as like any other property holding or something like that. So they have, what to say, they have secured it, they have kept it, they have managed it, they have maintained it. And even in secular terms, it will not be right to say that anyone can enter that profession in this particular period. So I don't agree, or I don't feel that instead of government, if some much dust injection, all those things, then this is justifiable. My question is very simple, sir. We talk of political correctness now. So there was an era when no such thing, no such political correctness was there. Maybe there might have been some Archaka or some person in Ayodhya who would have ran away with the idol of Sri Rama during the time of aggression, and there would have been some other people who would have been impaled alive for not disclosing the information about the idol and all those things. What justice are we going to do to the descendants of such people? Because you see, until some 20 years back, we used to have special quota for the sons and grandsons of freedom fighters. In Tamil Nadu, we have special quota for the descendants, I mean, at least sons of, what to say, fighters in the language movement, anti-Hindi agitation, all those things. Even today, we have a special quota for the wards of ex-servicemen. So we do this as we acknowledge the sacrifice of their elders, and as a result, that's why we give a special quota for the sons and daughters of ex-servicemen. My question is, why not extend that in the case of Archakas? Why is it very necessary to prove your political correctness in the appointment of Archakas? Instead, you can think about the sacrifice of generations of Archakas earlier, and as a result of that, you can give that privilege to the particular community. This is my point of view, sir.
No, this is a very pertinent point that you have put forward. But unfortunately, as you are speaking, my mind went slightly away from the topic, and it went into the whole issue of presenting history in a wrong way. Because the moment anyone talks about archakas or temple priests, then the next thing they say is, okay, these are the people who prevented Dalits and the Harijans from entering the temple, and therefore they are. I mean, they are not seeing the angle that you presented, which is they are the protectors of the deity, they are protectors of the rituals and Agama for so many years who have taken the brunt. But the view that is being presented is that these are the people who prevented Dalits and Bahujans from entering the temples, and these are the people who perpetuated all the caste atrocities. If such a narrative is prevalent, I think the argument that you put forward, which is very valid, I think it'll not be heard at the right places, is what I fear. So what are certain constitutional armory that is available to us to actually bring forward this point of view, and also probably, if possible, categorize the families that are following Shaiva Agamas and the Pancharatra Agamas as a separate protected class in itself, or a separate protected community in itself, away from the regular, the broad Brahmin fold.
Yes, sir. Actually, you what to say? What you said about history can be extended to other things also. During the colonial days and immediately after the independence, that too in the post-colonial period, we were parroting the colonial discourse. So all the so-called tall philosophers of India, they misunderstood the entire system. So if you look into Radhakrishnan, or if you look into many other philosophers, you would find that there is little mentioning or little details about Pancaratra system or Vajnana system or Saiva Siddhanta. So they limited their view of Hinduism to some ideal aspect. And this echoes of this view is there in Constitution itself. So we have painted Hinduism with a very broad brush without giving any space for, what to say, the various shades of Hinduism, the different schools, and all those things. And this has led to much trouble. And in a pertinent judgment by the Supreme Court of India related to the Chidambaram temple, they have, the Supreme Court has very successfully identified the Dikshitas, the guardians as well as the priests of Chidambaram, as a separate ethnic group and a separate denomination. And this status of a separate denomination has given them some sort of what to say, constitutional immunity against the aggression by anyone, not just government, but by anyone. So they are very independent in deciding all the administrative as well as temple, ahamic matters of Chidambaram temple. In spite, even now there are certain skirmishes with the government, but the judgment is very much in their favor. Similarly, we have to relook into the cases of Adi Saivas, Adi Pancharatras, and Vaiganasas. These are three broad groups. There are other people. There are other people who amount only to 200 families, 300 families. For example, in Rameshwaram, the Archakas are Marathi Archakas. They speak Maharashtra Marathi language, and they are Pasupatas. That is their claim. Pasupata Saivas. See, Pasupata sect, which is considered to be almost extinct in India, survives in Rameshwaram in some 25-30 families. All these people are very, not, I cannot say micro minority, maybe I should say nano minority or something like that. So, like we give certain special privileges to religious minorities and linguistic minorities, these ethnic minorities also should be given some sort of special privileges. And these people, they never numbered very much. Their numbers were very low, and they did not play any active role in what you said, like what to say, caste-based segregation on all those things. In fact, Ahamic religions are more inclusive. There is always this dichotomy, Smriti versus Ahama thing is always there. For example, branding oneself with Shankha and Chakra, what we call as Stabdamudra Dharana in Madhva Siddhanta, is against Smriti, but upheld by the Ahama. So Ahama versus Smriti was always there. And what the social reformers of early 20th century saw was the prescription and action of the Smriti text and not of Ahamic text. So the social injustice, I can say that Ahamic religions were not, although discrimination was there, although classification was there, the social injustice part was not there in Ahamic traditions. So we have to educate the government, we have to educate the bureaucracy, and we have to educate the politicians about this day. And then you see in US, gambling is almost, I think, prohibited in most of the states of US. But however, you can see that the Red Indians, the native Indians of what to say, United States, in their land, they have all those clubs and casinos and everything because they have certain special privileges. That's what the American government says that. The American Constitution doesn't hold good in all the places in those regions. Similarly, because they are indigenous people, similarly, all these Adi Saivas, Adi Pancharatras, the Vaiganasas, Dikshitas, all these people are indigenous minorities, like scheduled tribes. Some sort of protective mechanism should be put forward, and some sort of special privileges should be given, and that can be very well worked within the constitutional mechanism if our lawmakers understand the ground reality. No common Hindu. I am not a Brahmin, and I am I am good at ahamas of both Saiva and Vaishnava tradition, and it doesn't concern me whether I enter the sanctorium or not. What concerns me is that whether the temple in which I worship follows the ahama properly. This is the attitude of most of the Hindus. No common Hindu wants to enter the sanctum sanctorium and touch the Lord. What he wants is that when he goes to a temple, he wants peace of mind, he wants karya siddhi, he wants all his prayers to be answered, and he doesn't worry if whether a Brahmin or non-Brahmin is being the Archaka. This is the basic thing. So I don't think the Bahujans would worry if certain specific privileges are given to the Archakas. And the problem is that the thinkers and the politicians, they make a big issue of it. So in all the narratives, the question of whether all person can touch the deity comes in, and the answer would be that no, it is not like that. Because in Hinduism, the rebirth and such concepts are there. So very well within the constitutional mechanism, some sort of scheduled status can be given to Archaka Brahmins, and their privileges and the entire ethnic group itself can be protected. That's what I think, sir.
That's that's quite hopeful, and then that two questions here. One, this will actually bring up the problem of identifying all such groups. Now we are talking about Tamil Nadu. We identified Adi Shaivas and Adi Pancharatras, and there may be other denominations of temple priests who are following agamic rituals and practices hereditarily. So the sheer number of it, I mean, if you come to Andhra, Telangana, Karnataka, I believe the number will only grow. So will that be a problem? The complexity of multitudes, will that be a problem in identifying and denotifying these people as separate tribes and protected communities?
That is a very good question, sir. Sir, each and every year, certain communities are being brought into the OBC class or scheduled community caste, class or scheduled tribe class. Certain other communities are moved from OBC list to general list. And this census and what to say, anthropological process, it is going on. And there are certain mechanisms because in a country like India where there are thousand how to say castes even within a single district, it is always a challenge, but it is not something which is unheard of. And I would like to make another important point. When we talk about traditional Archakas, the example which I gave was that of Adi Shaivas, Adi Pancharatras, and Vaikanasas, and some other people like Dikshitas. But let me say, make something very clear. While I am fighting for traditional Archakas, I am not only just fighting for the rights of Archakas who are belong to Brahmin community. There are Archakas from other community also who are worshipping in certain other temples which may not be ahamic, but which are in which they have their hereditary rights. So all these people, they can be categorized and some sort of what to say, special provision can be given because everything is available in record. Only thing is that there is some sort of survey like census like exercise has to be done. That can be done in 5 years, 10 years. If the idea is accepted in principle, then everything can take its own time to follow. So there is no hurry to finish it because already the system is there. Only thing is that some sort of guarantee should be given. So I don't think that it will be a very big challenge. Like any other population, like any other caste census and all those things, this thing will also take another 5 to 10 years to identify the people. The first thing is that there should be a constitutional amendment or something in that direction to enable this. The actual action, it might take time, like identifying the creamy layer or whatever it is. That will take its time. But if we get at least one constitutional move towards it, then that will be a very big relief. And that will be a very big relief, not just to these Adi Saivas, Adi Pancharathas, Vaikanasa, even to Bahujan priests who are there in certain temples for, what to say, 500 years, 600 years, or even more. So it is not limited to a particular varna. It is there in all varna. It is there in all castes. All these people will be that the sacrifices by the ancestors of all these people will be acknowledged properly if a constitutional amendment is made, and it can be made. And all the procedures, all the practical aspects, it doesn't matter if it take another 5 or 10 years, and within that we can very comfortably identify and give scheduled status. First thing is that we have to agree this solution in principle.
Right. So, as you're saying, all those people who are following their hereditary profession, especially in the priestly class, but maybe if you may allow, this can be extended to others who are, for example, Shilpakaras and the Vishwakarmas who are practicing their ancestral profession may also get some sort of protection with this kind of.
Sir, that is already there. We talk of this thing, progressive, this and that. But in the case of other people, may it be this Vishwakarmas or may it be, how to say, someone else, goldsmiths and all those things is already there. See, because those things are not politically colored, so that happens very easily. For example, in a bank, when there is a post in a bank named appraiser. Appraiser is supposed to be a person who checks the quality of the gold. And if you see it, if you, for example, in Tamil Nadu or in some other places, if you take a survey of some 100 banks, you can find out that in 85 or 90 banks, the post of the appraiser will be held by someone from the goldsmith community. What we call in Tamil as Tanka Asari, goldsmith community. Because that is nobody is raising any question there because there is no political angle there. There is no social or things are there. So if he is from that goldsmith community, then basically that person will be given a preference because it is considered or it is acknowledged that even by birth he will have a better knowledge than others. So this is all these things are unwritten rules. Similarly, in most of the fishing cooperative societies and all those things are run by or what to say, run under the aegis of fishermen community. Similarly, special preferences is given in this what to say, forest department for people belonging to the scheduled tribes because they know the forests and they know the mountains very well, and they are suitable for that environment because they have lived in that environment for 25-30 years and they can very easily survive. If you put a person from the plains in a mountain or in a forest, it will take time for him to acclimatize. So basically there is a preference. When a forest god is appointed, the government has even made some policy, I think, that preference should be given to the forest tribes. So in almost all the sectors, that hereditary profession or person with heritage being given preferences there. The only problem is that in priesthood, we have turned it into a political, socio-political issue, and each and everyone has to is forced to play a sort of a political correctness game, and that has led to all trouble.
Absolutely, absolutely, very well put. Sir, if with your permission, I would like to quote an anecdote, probably something which people like us come across every day when we come in contact with the current generation. So I have colleagues from, uh, especially I'm speaking about Kerala Nayar community, who go to temples and then they come back and kind of complain that the Nambudri don't touch them when they give the prasadam. They just drop it from slightly from 6 inches to 1 feet height. And they see this as a practice of untouchability against someone who is educated, modern, liberated kind of individual, and then they immediately form an opinion that this is backward and this should be completely stopped. And when you say that only the priests of certain families who are hereditary practicing the agamas can go and touch the main murti, they apply the same logic there as well. They see that, okay, are they practicing untouchability? I'm just pointing out to the ignorance of the current generation. So how can we gainfully explain them the significance of these practices, and where there is discrimination, really that can be questioned, but when it is a handed down ritual procedure which has been going on for many centuries, how can we impress upon the current generation that this is okay, and still we can be as good as Hindus as anyone can be? Just a random question that I have for you.
Sir, actually, I live in a place which is not a city, which is rather a rural area. And till date, I haven't seen anyone complaining that the Archaka doesn't touch me. The Archaka gives the prasada without touching me, because nobody is worried about that. Nobody is worried whether the Archaka touches you, whether the Archaka shakes your hand, or whether the Archaka embraces you. But because these our people, we people are villagers, and we know our priorities. We go to the temple for some spiritual reason or for some laukika reason. We don't go there to socialize with the Archaka. So let the Archaka do his job. Let us do our job. That is it. And all these complaints, all these issues, they are brought in by the people who are, what to say, who are educated, but who are not educated in the religion. They are literate, or in the other way, they may be literate, but they are not educated properly. And because they have turned into oaks, and they see some sort of political rightness everywhere. On one side, they might complain that the Archaka didn't touch them. And if the Archaka starts touching them, they will say that it is not a good touch. So it will go on like that. There is no there is no end to this. There is no end to all these sort of things. And this ritual purity, that is not something which is followed by Archakas alone. See, even in my house, if my in the morning, at times I will be after brushing my teeth, I will be reading newspaper. Where my brother would have completed his morning ablutions and bath and everything, he will go to the puja room, and while he is going to puja room, I will stand up and I will step aside from his path. He is my own brother. But once he is in the state of ritual purity, I am not supposed to touch him, since I have not bathed, and since there is every chance that I might, what to say, cause some impurity to them. So this is there within the family itself. This is not something which is unique to the Archaka community, and this is not untouchability and anything like that. And the problem is that these people who are not very familiar with the Indian traditions, they want to create a trouble out of something else. Number one. Number two, let me ask a question, sir. All these people who want all sort of equality and everything within the temple, how many of them will be bold enough to raise it in their own office? You know, and I know that in each and every professional organization and office, the toilets or the restrooms for the executives are different from the restroom for the employees. See, either you or I, both of us cannot make use of the restroom of our own boss. However urgent it is, right? So we have to, so that segregation is there. Executives or people from the higher sector, they never mix with the people from, even it is a Western style company or American company or whatever it is, they don't mix with us in the cafeteria. So that subtle differentiation is always there, and that is very intrinsic in many places. The thing is that most of these people, most of these would-be revolutionaries, they want to do all the revolution within the sphere of religion, and they don't want to do any revolution within the social or the professional sphere. The reason is very simple, because any Tom, Dick, and Harry can say anything and do anything within the religious or temple sphere. But if they try to voice such sort of opinions within the office or somewhere else, they'll be kicked out of the job. So basically, if you are not a hypocrite, you will not find any trouble with any of the existing system. Untouchability and exclusion and segregation, they are different. So practicing certain procedures and all those things, that is something else. See, a priest will not become an enemy of an Bahujan just because he refuses to hug the Bahujan when he is on duty. It's not like that. See, the priest will become an enemy of Bahujan if he doesn't pray for the welfare of the Bahujan. A priest may be very strict. He may even refuse to, what to say, speak with the common man, non-Brahmin, a Shudra, someone like that. But that is, if that is prescribed in his text, he is doing that. On the other hand, if he is praying for the welfare of all the people from all the caste and community, then he is the priest. So that was the system. A priest is supposed to pray not only for the welfare of his own community, but the welfare of all the people from all the varnas, and even for the welfare of animals. So that stage or that extent of inclusion is always there. And when we fail to understand that, and when we stick on to very narrow political ideals, all sort of issues come in.
Very well said, sir. Very well said. And those are very pertinent points. And when you mentioned practicing Suchi in your own house, I mean, I come from a Brahmin household, but if I don't take bath in the morning, my grandmother wouldn't allow me to enter the puja room and touch her or others who are actually, practicing muddy at that point. So it exists within the family as well, as you said. So let me also ask you one more angle. So I'm 40 years old. So
Okay.
I'm neither old nor young. So I'm kind of
Okay.
the middle generation right now.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let me put a slightly uncomfortable question to you. What do you think is there any merit in looking back at the Varnashrama Vyavastha we had back in the day, not during the colonial period where it underwent it degenerated a bit, I would say. Is there any merit in looking at society from the different varnas point of view? Um, and because I understand not just the Brahmins, but every varna has their own ritual uh, that they carry from their earlier generation and practices that they carry from their earlier generation. And even today, despite being so modernized and secular, the reports say that 95% of the marriages are endogamic in India. They marry within
Yes.
the community.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
in some way, the Varna is still preserved. So, is there a merit in relooking at our society from that point of view?
Sir, actually, the first point which I want to make very clear is that, may it be Adi Shankara, or may it be Ramanuja, or may it be Madhvacharya, none of these acharyas believed in this idea of varna by practice or varna by profession. Varna is always by birth. That is the cardinal point. That's a very basic tenet. And in the commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, in their commentary on Abhasutra Adhikarana of Brahma Sutra, they have insisted this point very much. This is one thing. And the second thing is that whether a person follows his varna duty, that is the second thing. And in that is a very tricky question, because for a Brahmin, it is very difficult. For a Brahmin or Kshatriya, it is very difficult to practice his varna duty in, the independent India, because the system has changed. Now we live in a democracy. Maybe for a Vaishya or Shudra, it is very easy, because still we can do business and still there is service sector. So the society, viewing the society from the aspect of Varna and all those things. See, what I want to do is, I want to focus this Varna thing within the religious sphere. You are, maybe, for example, you might have been born as a Brahmin. You might work in an IT company or something like that. But that itself doesn't make you an non-Brahmin or something like that. That doesn't make you. The thing is that you have followed your Abad Dharma. Since it is impossible to survive on the basis of Bhiksha and all those things, you have to go for a job. That is the idea. But if you still stick on to your Brahminical Varna Dharma within your religious thing, doing your puja, Gayatri Japa, and Veda Prana and everything, then that is fine to a certain extent. So I think that to be very realistic, we can only think of this thing. We cannot, what to say, think that the entire system should be taken back, or entire system should be viewed in terms of each varna doing only their assigned duty. If a Brahmin is being a Vedic Pandit, or he is doing Unjavrutti, or he is being Archaka, I salute him, because he is not only, what to say, he's doing his Varna Dharma, Varna and Ashrama Dharma. But even if a Brahmin is having some secular occupation, but in spite of that, if he is holding on to his Brahminical practices, the rituals, rites, and everything, and he is not doing any prohibited thing, then even then I respect him, because he is doing what best he can do. So that contention, satisfaction, everything is there. This is how I rather look at Varna as a religious thing rather a social thing. Not, I don't equate that, what to say. There was a occupation based, profession based classification, this and that. I see it as a religious thing. I see the Varna Dharma as a sort of a religious duty, and most of the commentators of Bhagavad Gita have seen like that. So the answer might not be a very direct one, but I don't know how to give a clear cut answer. This is my perspective.
No, sir, that's a very, very good answer, because sometimes we get caught between these two extremes. On the one side, there's an extreme secularization, de-Hinduization, de-Dharmicization. On the one side, you see people trying to get back to the pre-colonial state of society, or at least talking about that. So there has to be a middle ground which is more suitable to our times, and I think you rightly pointed out that. So Raghutam sir has pointed out to one point in the chat. He's talking about TTD running Dalit priest training programs from vulnerable areas which are vulnerable to conversions into Christianity and Islam, and then posting such priests in newly constructed temples where probably there is no hereditary priesthood attached. So, what are the merits of such a program from your point of view?
That is a very important question, sir. Let me say you something. I live in an area which is historically known for conversion, very mass large scale conversion. And in my day to day life, I have been observing the entire process of conversion, right from a psychological point of view and a sociological point of view. Let me make something very clear, sir. No one gets converted just because he's unable to worship in a temple, or just because he's unable to become a priest of a temple. People get converted due to two reasons. Reason number one is that they might have some very big problem, an incurable disease, or a very big crisis in their life, something like that. And when they believe that that crisis or that disease or that issue can be solved miraculously, if they go to some other religion, they get converted. Either they get converted before the crisis is solved, or they get converted as a gratitude after the crisis is solved. This is one point. And the second point is that people get converted for certain socio-economical reasons, because after conversion, if there is a better chance for them to get education, if there is a better chance for them to get access to jobs and all those things, they get converted. These are the two basic reasons. Nobody is getting converted in masses or anything like that because of a spiritual crisis or something like that. It is not like that. So if Tirupati Tirumala Devastham really wants to curb conversion, or really wants to check conversion among how to say certain ethnic groups of India, what they have to do is they have to first look into the reason why they get converted. What attracts them towards other religion? So I believe that it's not because there are no priests among Dalits. It's not like that. There might be some other reasons: access to good drinking water, access to roads, access to education institution, access to jobs. All these things are contributory matter. If you just train some 10 people from 1,000 people hold an ethnic group, and if you post them as a priest and you say that thereby conversion will be stopped, it is very stupid. Nothing more than that. I agree that people from every community who have a priestly heritage should be trained. That includes Brahmins, that includes Kshatriyas, that includes Vaishyas, that includes Shudras, and I believe that Dalit is a term that is coined by the Westerners. I believe that Dalit might be a part, or might be not like might be Dalit are part of the Shudra Varna only. So if there is a priestly heritage among them, if they are priests, them, then if some sort of specific training should be given, if they have lost the tradition, that can be given by TTD, or TTD can even give them a monthly pension or some sort of a stipend for practicing their hereditary profession. That is okay. But on the other hand, training youngsters as priests and appointing them in temple and claiming that thereby we have stopped the conversion is Nothing but stupidity. If you are economically well settled, you are not going to worry about conversion. You will be spending more and more money on your family temple. This is what's happening. And just instead of turning a person belonging to the scheduled caste into a priest and giving him 20,000, 30,000 salary and claiming that conversion has been to stop, if TTD or some other organization, Hindutva organization, whoever it may be, if they are able to provide good education and thereby provide good job opportunity, if the person from the scheduled caste or if the person from the scheduled tribe, they are also, if they also earn 1 lakh or 2 lakh per month, like someone who is in Bangalore, or at least they earn a comfortable salary, then what is the reason that they are going to get converted? Instead of getting converted, they will spend more and more money on their own temple. They will be having their Kuladeva temple, and there will be a common temple in the place. They will be spending money on that, and they will be spending money on the welfare of their own priests. So this idea of training people from a particular community and thereby preventing conversion, what to say, that seems to be very absurd to someone who sees the entire process of conversion from the grounds.
Very good, very valid point. I think the whole problem is coming under the influence of government and these endowments department. Even the TTD and other um, Hindu organizations are viewing at conversion from a social justice point of view. I mean, as you said, they're thinking conversions are happening because Hindus have, or at least the upper caste have alienated the Dalits and so-called Bahujans, and not looking at the economic and incitement reasons, monetary incentive reasons that you mentioned. So I think that a fundamental change in the way we look at our social dynamics has to happen.
I think that Rahottama Rao has posted another important question, and he asks whether mundane needs are the basis of holding on to the spirituality. Okay, that's a very good question. Actually, we do have this romantic notion of spirituality, transgression, everything in the mundane plane, and that has something to do with everything in the heavenly plane, which is good. There might be a few people who have that sort of vairagya, dispassion, and everything. But for a commoner, it is more or less like that. They equate their mundane day to day life, day to day habits, and day to day things with their spirituality. I'll give you a very common example. You go to a temple and then you go to office. See, if for 3 consecutive days or thrice, after going to a temple, while going to your after going to a temple and while driving to your office, if your tire gets punctured for 3 days, you will stop going to the temple. No amount of spirituality will convince you to go to that temple again, right? You will think that something is wrong with that place, something is wrong with that deity, or something is wrong with the temple. And see, whenever I go, I have to spend time in changing my tire. So some problem is there. And immediately, see, leave alone tire and everything. If you lose your footwear 4 or 5 times after going to a temple, what will you do? 6 times you will not go to the temple. Only one out of what to say, 10 will go to the temple without footwear.
True,
Other
true,
nine
true.
people, they'll stop going. It is like that, sir. It is like in the common plane, it is like that. Beliefs are very strongly conditioned by the day-to-day experiences.
That's again an excellent point. So, sir, I think just to conclude, again coming back to relieving temples and from the interference of government. Right now, if the Adi Pancharatras or Adi Shaivas, if they have to protect their own hereditary professions, they have to approach the court. They themselves have to fight for themselves. Rather, is there any role of these traditional mathams and adhinams in fighting for them, because they probably are slightly better equipped and have the wherewithal to take these cases up because ultimately these have to be fought in the courts, and or at least until there is a political revolution and some kind of legislation is brought in, these have to be fought in the courts. So do you see uh, any chance of these matams coming together and fighting for these common causes?
That is also a very important question, sir. I believe that the mutts have a religious and spiritual duty to fight for the causes of the Archakas like any other Hindu. That is there because the mutts are better equipped. They have their own legal team. They are well provided to fight in a court of law. So I think that it is their dharmic duty to fight for this cause, because every Hindu, I believe, should take whatever constitutional measures available to him to fight against this intrusion into the spiritual and religious affairs. This is on the one side. But on the other side, let me caution you something. While talking about freeing the temples from the government control, I am not talking about an alternative. Instead of government, let there be some, what to say, collection of mutts and adinams running the temple, a board run by them. It is not like that. What I am suggesting is a complete decentralization. Let the people, let the archakas and the believers in each and every temple, of each and every temple, let them take care of their temple. I don't want to replace one centralized body with another centralized body. This is the first thing. And the second thing is that the Mats and Athinas, to a certain extent, they are supporting the Archakas in fighting against these issues. But once again, there is at times there is an ego clash. The suzerainty issues would come because, for example, Ahamic Saiva and the Adi Saivas were there from eternity, and historically they date back even what to say earlier than the very idea of this Adinas and Saiva Siddhanta. Similarly, Pancharatras were there even before the time of Adi Shankara. So Shankara came, Ramanuja came, Madhvacharya came, but Pancharatra system was there and the Archakas were there even earlier. So the problem is that a mutt can help them, but a mutt, may it be a Saiva mutt or Vaishnava mutt, they cannot think that the Archaka community should come under their suzerainty and their control, and the community, the Archaka community should be subservient to them. That will lead to another trouble. So you can always help any organization, a mutt or Athinam or whatever it is, they can help the cause of Archakas as like any other concerned Hindu, but not in any other way, not with the motive that after once the government is gone, let us replace the government. That attitude shouldn't be there. So that is also something which I wanted to put on record.
I totally agree with you on this one, sir. There is also this fear among certain Pithadipatis and the heads of mutts that if they fight for such causes, the government might even clamp down their activities and and in future bring them under government control. So right now they're having some sort of independence because they're not interfering with the government or they're not fighting with the government. So there is also this apprehension with them.
Sir, there is a saying in Tamil, Turavikku Vendan Turumbu. For a sannyasi, or for a mendicant or a monk, for a monk, king is nothing. That is the translation, the rough translation of that proverb. And actually, if a person is a proper sannyasi, in the term that he has renunciated everything, he need not worry about anything except other than dharma. I'll say you a very small anecdote, sir. There is a Matathipati, pontiff from North India, who used to be very vocal and who used to criticize anything that is adharmic, according to him. Once I had one of my friends had a chance to interact with him. He asked him, "How are you this much brave? You don't worry about anything. Whenever something is adharma, whether something is adharmic, you very vocally criticize it. May it be Congress, may it be BJP, may it be some other local party. You don't worry about anything. You simply criticize. How did you derive this courage? What is, who is behind you, and all those things." The answer given by that pontiff is very important and thought-provoking. The pontiff said that, "See, my mutt has lost all its property even 100 years back. I don't have any property, anything with me now. All I have is this 20 cents of mutt building and 3 or 4 employees. I have nothing to lose. The government cannot take anything from me. I am a varakta, I am a renunciate in all proper sense. So I need not worry about anything." So when mutts, Athinams turn into institution, they have all this fear, how to protect the institution, this and that. Else, if they have that dispassion, then no issue will be there. And on the other stage, at least I believe that even if a normal Hindu doesn't believe in these things, Pontiff or Matathipati should believe that God will come to their protection if they are being antagonized or if they are being victimized by the government. Even Matathipattis who fail to think that, and Matathipattis who want to play a political game to safeguard the institution, actually they cause more damage to the religion than non-believers.
Excellent points, sir. These are excellent points, and I hope all the big mathas and adinams actually think in these lines, because what I see is more and more they are becoming laukika. They are pretty much happy protecting their own small kingdom and not raising voices against these common Hindu causes. So I will pause here, sir. And this has been an extremely enlightening discussion so far. And these are topics that we need to continue discussing in various platforms. And I hope I get more such opportunities with you. So thanks a lot for joining and speaking about this very important topic, sir.
Thank you, sir. I thank you for the very fruitful discussion, pointing questions, and how to say the way you handled it. So I was able to do some justice to the topic, and I should express my gratitude to Rahottama Rao and Madhva History for giving me this wonderful opportunity.